This meeting is being recorded.
I want to call this Arkansas 529 plan board into session. Greetings, everyone. Again, as we've had discussions about different goings on, but I'm glad to be here with y'all. You know, my time, y'all are not going to have me to push around here a whole lot longer. So, but perhaps we'll meet again. One never does know. So with that call to order, we do have a quorum, and I would like to get a motion for the approval of the minutes. 2 sets of minutes?
There's the November, and then there's the special meeting.
Okay, well then, as I was just advised, there's 2 sets of meetings or minutes here that I need to, can we approve it in one motion? No, yeah, okay. So feel free to review. Any questions, please let me know.
I move we approve the November and December minutes.
I have a motion from Clint to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Fran, you're up.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everybody. So I just have like 2 kind of primary things I wanted to discuss today, or just update you on. Number 1, and this is what's kind of been consuming our world of late, is the total rebranding on the 529 name and becoming now the Arkansas Brighter Future 529 plan. And as some of you will recall, we had asked you back in January to take kind of a quick look at the new website. So that more or less kind of got the ball rolling on the rebranding. And if you haven't had a chance to look at it, I encourage you to do so. We're going back in to do some minor tweaks, and it's a living document, so we can continue to enhance it as we need to. But it is brighterfuturedirect529.com. And for folks who try to find us using the quote old address, it will automatically redirect them to the new one. Then in an effort to generate some local news coverage, we're in the process of putting together a media, kind of a fun media kit that we're individually sending to Central Arkansas, Northwest and Northeast Arkansas media markets. And inside that kit, in addition to the press release, we're kind of doing the heavy lifting for the TV stations. We're pre-packaging a story where both the treasurer and I have already been interviewed, and so we're sending the kind of the story already, handing it to the TV stations in hopes that they'll kind of pick it up, because it will be an easy lift for them. And it has both of us kind of talking about why we rebranded and what we think it means. And also in that media kit, we're including a timeline, and it's in your packet. And this was a document that we thought would be helpful not only for the press release, but also just in general. It shows the various milestones, both from a national or federal legislative standpoint, and then shows what happened within the Arkansas legislation, and then to get us to the point where we are right now. So it took us a while to do this and to try to get it on one sheet of paper, but we think it tells a pretty good story. Then the other thing we're doing to promote the Brighter Future 529 is we are placing a full-page ad in Arkansas Business Publishing Group. They put out a magazine called Next Money. And hold on. We were trying to share it.
No, it's not Clint on the cover.
Yeah. But this is an ad and it's in your packet if you have that. So this publication goes into junior high and high schools all throughout the state. And so the message is purposefully kind of targeting the younger generation, as you can see there, but hopefully they'll share it with mom or dad. Then the last thing, which you just got a sneak peek of, is this little video vignette that we're using on social media that shows the evolution of the 529 brand. And so if we rewind it here, so that's the old, quote, old logo, and then set it in motion, and the tassel moves over, we've graduated, and we're now the Brighter Future 529. So that's just a 5-second little explanation, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. Then the last thing I was gonna mention was we are doing some new TV spots that will come out at the end of this month, and then we're starting to work on some sponsorships to help promote the new brand on some local TV stations, maybe this spring and summer. So we're just kind of working out those details. So, okay, any questions for me or for Dave? We've obviously been working hand in hand with the census on this.
Yeah, if I could just say, Fran, you guys did a great job. I mean, this turned out really well. We've been working on that for about a year, right? It's been a long process, so it looks fantastic.
Thank you.
And we're not getting calls on our side, neither on the advisor side or the direct side. So I don't know if you guys are getting any calls in the treasurer's office, but it seemed to have gone incredibly seamless.
Yeah, I mean, we've just had a few, but it has to do with, you know, logging in issues.
Right.
Nothing substantial at all.
Yeah.
Dave, I'll add to your comments about, you know, when we started this thing some 7 years and 3 months ago, with respect to my administration, this was one of the priorities. And it's so neat to get to sit here today and realize how Arkansans have just said we want a better education opportunity for our children. I mean, obviously, we went from some 528 million under management to 1.25. Something went right somewhere. So, and I think again, I take my hat off and give credit to the great staff and certainly y'all's help in helping us achieve that. That being said, Grant, are you up?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So before you have the proposed amended budget for FY22. Thank you all for giving us a little bit of extra time to work on it for this year. This now will reflect the final agreement that we have to unwind the relationship with Central 25, who is managing our mobile app. As you will see, the payments to do so, the total amount to unwind was $155,000. So that was going to be broken up into 3 installments. $60,000 was due on January 15th of 2022. $60,000 will be due on July 15th of 2022. And the final $35,000 will be due January 15th, 2023. That allowed us kind of to spread that out. We were able to negotiate that amount down. And that amount is reflective of development costs that were done to get the app working that would spread out over the life of the contract. So with that, you will see that we are still running a surplus for this year. We should hopefully, if all the numbers run true, have a conservative amount of $12,655 as a surplus for FY22. But I'd be glad to answer any questions that you all may have around the Central 25 or this proposed amended budget. Okay, with that, we do need approval of it, sir.
Okay, you heard Grant's comments. With that being said, do I have a motion to approve the amendment?
I'll make that motion.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Fran, you're back.
Then the next item in front of you is a list of checks and invoices to be paid, and just wanted to put that up for approval. Do we need?
Yeah. I'm gonna let everybody take a look here. If I have can I get a motion to approve the checks and invoices after you've had a time to review?
So moved.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so very much. So, Mr. Peace, I think you're up.
Yeah, budget report. This would be for the period ended February the 28th, so it's 8 months out of the fiscal year. Income was a little over 487,000 for the admin account, which is about $27,000 over budget. Everything else was pretty much in line. The marketing was about $16,000 over budget. That's probably just a timing difference. And with the new budget being approved, we will be within the budget for that time period. At the end of February, the total admin accounts were $125,000.
Any questions of John? Okay, hearing none. Dave?
Let me see if I can share my screen.
We got confidence in you.
You know what? That Florida State education ain't gonna do me that well when it comes to technology. So can you guys see this okay?
Yes.
So there's, the news of the day is a market correction. And I just wanted to say, it's heading down again today. Julia, you guys getting any calls from the call center? For the market overall from your retail clients?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's been such a swell.
I mean, we're not getting a whole lot of calls, and we're not seeing any crazy withdrawals. We saw an uptick in withdrawals, but they're really all qualified. So it's interesting that no one's panicking except me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We're getting an increase in calls, but I wouldn't say we're seeing any activity.
Yeah, I got you.
Coming out of that.
Yeah, let's be the next slide. And by the way, are you guys getting a little feedback from this?
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm hearing the same thing. Okay, so with that said, 2020 contributions were up 5.2%. So even though we've got this market correction going on, people are still making contributions. And of course, what we see is when you do AIP, you don't change it when you have a market correction. And that's really, the more AIP we have, the better we are when it comes to maintaining contributions in a volatile market. As I said, withdrawals were up, compared to last year significantly, but they were mostly qualified, 82%. So no non-qualified for the most part. So net flows were positive, but they were 1.6 million less than what we saw last year because of that withdrawal. Any questions on that? No. So funded accounts, you see the steady growth. Average account size had a little bit of a downtick because of the market. We're just under 17,000. But when you look at it, by beneficiary age, you see that as people get ready to go off to college, their account balances are higher. And then on the and John will speak to this, but on the advisor side, we had a downtick, but we're still, right at $667 million with an average account balance of over $41,000. So I don't know, John, are you seeing much activity on your side from advisors?
Actually, not in the same, tone, not too much in terms of panic. Obviously, everybody's concerned with the present situation, but we haven't seen any kind of rush to the exits in any kind of way. I think people, the good thing about 529 accounts is that they are very sticky. People are purpose driven and saving for the long term. And, just like through the pandemic, they are kind of sticking to their purpose, and they'll deploy the assets when they need to, not when, the markets kind of drive some panic selling. So overall, we've seen a lot of stability, and that's not just in this plan, but across the industry as well.
Yeah, I agree. We're seeing the same thing. People aren't panicking. They're staying with the program. So and lastly, I'll just touch on UGIFT and UPromise. UGIFT Direct has seen over 10.3 million in inflows since inception. Advisor has seen over 3.8 million. The average gift amount for Direct still stands at $576, and for Advisor over $1,100. And then one news on UPromise, we're re-upping the UPromise program relationship, and you're going to see more inflows for both Direct and Advisor. Now we've added Advisor back into the UPromise program, and you can see for the Direct plan we've already crossed over $2 million, and I'll start adding in the numbers for the Advisor plan moving forward. So it's been a pretty positive relationship with UPromise. So with that said, that's in my slides. Any questions on these? If not, I'll stop the share.
All right, well, thank you, Dave. Julia, you're up. Come on. Unmute. Julia. Hello.
Julia, I think you're muted.
I'm trying to share my screen, and sometimes I have difficulty. We don't have approvals for Zoom at Vanguard, so sometimes I'm having trouble sharing my screen. Apologize.
Well, welcome, Julia.
Maybe Chris, could you help me out?
Yeah,
Not
I
getting
can
access.
share it for you.
Yeah, if you could just go to slide 5 for me, please. Of the Vanguard deck. So I'm just going to share a couple of topics with you this morning, and thanks for including us today. I wanted to give you an update on education savings at Vanguard, just our business, where we stand right now, and some of the trends we're observing. Next, I'll just touch on some of the big themes in the economy and our forecasts for 2022. And then lastly, just touch on your portfolio performance. So with respect to education savings at Vanguard, if you could just advance another slide or two, Chris, for me. That's it, perfect. Right now, we're totally aligned with the overall mission at Vanguard, which of course is to be the champion for individual investors. We want to provide and deliver the best performing funds, a best in class client experience at the lowest cost possible. And education savings as a division of retail at Vanguard is certainly aligned with that. Our leadership posture within the 529 space continues to strengthen. We currently have 169 billion in assets under management in 529 plans. That represents 40 plans across 37 states. And of the direct 529 plan assets, our products represent about 56%. So continued growth with respect to our presence in the market, and we look to continue that trend. With respect to what we've observed in our client base over the last year to 18 months, I'd say there are 3 major trends I wanted to speak to. First is progressive smooth glide paths, year to enrollment glide paths. This has certainly become an industry best practice, embraced and advocated for by Morningstar. And we continue to see more states convert to these progressive glide paths. As you know, we introduced our target enrollment portfolios in 2020, and we were thrilled when this board voted to adopt our target enrollment portfolios. We're really looking forward to working with you and a census later this year to convert to those portfolios. So thank you for that continued trust in Vanguard. And another theme is price compressions. As I'm sure you're all aware, state sponsors are looking to capture lower prices wherever and whenever they can. Most states are doing this either by negotiating contract extensions. Michigan and Georgia are 2 examples of that, or by going direct to the market through the RFP process. 3 states did that recently: California, Texas, and Delaware. And interestingly enough, those 3 states that went to RFP ended up retaining their incumbents. So that's another trend. It's not a new trend, but we expect that to persist. And then finally is environmental, social, and governance investing, ESG investing. This trend has certainly increased significantly over the last 2 or 3 years in the market in general. There's slow increase and adoption in the 529 space, however, given the short time horizon and focused purpose of these types of plans, not quite the same trajectory that we see in the market at large. But there are probably 22 states with about 28 plans that now have some sort of ESG option in their lineup. But the cash flows to these products is still low, under 1% with respect to the direct plans in the 529 space. However, I will say that anecdotally, we are having many, many more conversations with our states now on this topic, on ESG investing in general, its appropriateness for 529 vehicles, as well as product selection. So if anecdotal evidence is meaningful at all, we would expect to see more adoption of ESG products in the 529 space and cash flows to follow. Bearing in mind as well the changing demographic in most plans, younger constituents, millennials, for instance, who we know do make ESG considerations when selecting investments. So looking forward to seeing what the trajectory might look like in 22 and beyond for ESG. That's it with respect to education savings and some of the trends we've observed. If there are no questions, I'll move on to the economy at large. Again, just want to talk about major quick hits on the major themes. Needless to say, it was turbulent enough addressing inflation and the Fed, and now we have the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which is, imported extreme volatility into the market and introduced a new component with energy prices. So right now we've reduced our growth projections for the U.S. economy for 2022 from 4% down to 3.5%. Still a robust number, but nonetheless mindful of potential impacts from higher energy prices. We expect the economy will reach full employment, probably mid-year 2022. And then with respect to inflation, obviously seeing very high numbers, 7.5% in the beginning of this year, but we do expect inflation to moderate. Core inflation looking about 3.5% by the end of 22, headline inflation 4%. All of this within the context of the immediate events in Ukraine, Russian sanctions, and the upward pressure on oil prices. Energy prices will have significant impact, and the question is, will we go back to $100 or slightly below? Will we stay in this 125 to 130 range, or could we get to 150, 155? And how long these price increases will persist? This is going to have serious impacts on consumption demand and growth for the year. So we're very, very mindful of this and keeping a close watch on energy prices and those impacts on consumption demand and growth for the US economy. And then finally, just talk about our long-term return projections. These really haven't changed over a 10-year horizon. We still have forecasts for fairly muted returns. US equities 2 to 4%, non-US higher 5.1 to 7.1%. And on the fixed income side, really US and non-US are right on top of each other. US 1.5 to 2.5, and non-US 1.3 to 2.3. So no major impacts to our long-term return projections, which of course you would consider with respect to a 529 education savings plan and the time horizon for your constituents. And then lastly, Chris, if you could just go to slide 67, I'll just want to touch on your portfolio performance if there are no questions on the economy, inflation, et cetera. The portfolios in general continue to perform as we would expect, and they're tracking their composite indices pretty tightly. I will point out, though, that in the 3-year return period and out, we still do see some performance differential versus the composite benchmarks, and that's due to the fact that the 3-year returns and outs are still capturing the first half of 2020, where we saw that historic volatility. And as I think, as I've discussed with you before, that required us to go into the market much more frequently to rebalance these portfolios, bring them back to their targeted asset allocations, and that additional trading activity did create performance drag. And so we're still capturing some of that in the 3-year and longer term returns. But if you look at 1 year and closer in, we're tracking the composite benchmarks much more tightly. So overall, I think the portfolios are doing well, and we will continue to work our way out of the differential for the 3-year returns and out. So other than that, no real anomalies to report with respect to portfolio performance. But I'd answer any questions if you have any specific questions with respect to your Vanguard portfolios.
Yeah, Julia, this is Dennis Milligan. Do we have any Russian exposure that you're aware of? That's a big
Yes,
question.
we do. Yes, we do. That's relevant to your portfolios. Your portfolios contain underlying Vanguard funds, one of which is Total International Stock, the other of which is Total International Bond. Both of those funds do have Russian exposure. Total International Stock has about 0.75% of the portfolio in Russian securities. Total International Bond about 0.38%. With respect to our passive fund exposure in Russian securities, we have received guidance and direction from the index providers, FTSE in the case of Total International Stock, and Bloomberg with respect to Total International Bond. They are divesting of their Russian securities, and we will follow our policies and procedures with respect to doing that, and will divest when and if we're able to. In many cases, some of these securities are not trading, and we can't divest immediately, but we will continue to fair value price these securities, and then when the opportunity presents, we will divest. But these are extremely small percentages of the total assets in these funds, and we don't expect this activity to have any impact overall on the performance. But I can certainly share with Fran and Grant our posture on this. I can share the security, actual security, Russian security holdings in those two portfolios. I can send that to you, and we'll keep you appraised.
That would be great. Thanks, Julia, for answering that. So
You're
moving
welcome.
on, John Park.
Thanks, Treasurer, and thanks for having me again. Obviously, the war in Ukraine is dominating the news right now. So we have been spending a lot of time responding to that. But before I jump into that, let me share my screen. Okay, can you guys see that yet? No, not yet.
Yes.
Right? You can. Okay, great. So yes, we've had the rebranding and transition for what is now the Brighter Future Advisor 529 plan. So we have a new visual identity for the deck. Skipping ahead to just what's happening as far as asset flows are concerned. So we finished up the year 2021 very, very close to 700 million for the first time. You can see from the past few years, the rate of growth from 2019, through 2021, it's been pretty dramatic. We had an 18% increase in assets since the year end of 2020. Obviously, as Dave has pointed out, the recent marketility has dropped that back a bit, but still extremely impressive. So what's happening in Arkansas? Even more impressive in the state of Arkansas, actually, in large part due to the in-state tax advantages that were brought in by your administration. In the past year, Arkansas assets have gone up 29% in the advisor plan. So super excited about that. We had a few firms that added to the total of firms that are selling the plan. So a 6% increase there, 409 financial advisors, which is incredible, 11% increase there, 3598 accounts. That's a 15% increase, and average account size increasing by 10%. So, tremendous growth, especially in Arkansas, but in the plan overall, you can see on the right that there are 173 Edward Jones advisors alone in the state distributing the plan. So that's pretty amazing. So that's what's happening specifically as far as the asset flows are concerned. I did also send out a piece that we prepared on the initial take for the invasion of Russia. Obviously, we have been super fortunate to have, as the chairman of the BlackRock Investment Institute, Tom Donilon, who was the national security advisor in the Obama administration, and he's been delivering almost daily briefings to not only the firm but also to clients, client-facing staff as well, like myself. And I'm not going to go through all of the points here, but obviously what we're seeing is a dramatic reordering of the post-World War II global order in a way that we haven't seen, ever since that period, right? So in the 77 years since World War II, we haven't had a world power, the largest country in Europe, attack the second largest country in Europe by land area, right? So these are incredibly dramatic events. Over the past 30 years since the Cold Wars ended, there's been a tremendous peace dividend that we believe, and I think everybody believes, has been tremendously beneficial to not only Americans, but practically everybody in the world in terms of increasing standards of living, improved healthcare, and for this to occur, and then for the dramatic response by the U.S. and its allies in response to the Russian aggression has been mind-blowing for somebody that like myself, that was a actual government major in college, grew up in the Cold War like many of you did. It's hard to believe that the proverbial land war in Europe is actually occurring again. So this is having major consequences throughout the global economy. Obviously, the biggest one that we cited here is it's going to have a knock-on effect to inflation, obviously through higher energy prices, right? To the extent that this is very long lasting in terms of an increase in commodity prices, that's going to flow through in many, many ways throughout the global economy. I think a lot of the consequences are yet to be seen. But we do not think that this is a short-term event. We think that we're heading into as it says on the page here, a protracted standoff between Russia and the West. Whether it blooms into a full-on protracted Cold War remains to be seen. But obviously, we are following this super, super closely. I'm going to stop sharing. As far as exposures, and then also BlackRock overall policies as far as investments are concerned, we have EM exposure within the iShares plan. It at this point is pretty minimal. We also have total market exposure, international exposure that is, but again, relatively minimal as well. In terms of actions that BlackRock has taken directly, starting on February 28th, BlackRock suspended the purchase of all Russian securities. That includes pretty much every single type of Russian instrument, including equities, debt, derivatives, FX, real assets, or funds, whether it's active or passive. As Julia mentioned, most of the major index providers, Russell, FTSE, S&P, MSCI, they've really tried to ring fence the issue by creating sort of pulled out separate indices for Russian securities. The fact of the matter is that the Russian securities market has basically become uninvestable at this point anyway. So most managers are valuing Russian securities at essentially zero right now. There are some exceptions there, but it's becoming incredibly illiquid. The Russians have frozen their own markets, and so therefore any trading that's going on is in other international markets, but most of those markets are now frozen as well. So we have the securities that we had before, and we will try to exit them in an orderly fashion as situations allow. But as I said before, BlackRock's taken a very strong stance on the situation, and we have suspended all purchases of securities. We don't have any active managers buying anything. And we're waiting to see how the events unfold. Obviously, a lot of what happens in the arena of sanctions, BlackRock is going to adhere to all of the necessary sanctions and make sure that we don't run afoul of any of those within the plan, or just in general as a firm. And luckily for us, we don't have any offices in either Russia or Ukraine. So as a 100% fiduciary to our clients, we don't have any proprietary positions that we need to be concerned about. So obviously, like the rest of the world, we're watching the situation, and from a purely humanitarian standpoint, BlackRock is doing a lot on the philanthropic side to send aid over to people in need in Ukraine. We actually had some employees who had family members in Ukraine, and we arranged to get them evacuated from Ukraine. So, it really hits home. We have obviously offices in Europe, and a lot of our European employees are in some of those neighboring nations and are very, very concerned. So, it's something that hits us on a personal level as well as a business level. But, rest assured, we will make sure that as far as the plan is concerned, that we are doing everything that we need to do as a fiduciary to make sure that the investors in the plan are protected, and that obviously we're doing everything to the best of our ability to adhere to sanctions and just the changing environment on a daily basis.
John, we appreciate that report. Any questions of John? Hearing none. Greg, you're up.
Thank you, and thanks for having me today. So I believe I've met most, if not all of you, but my name's Greg Walker. I'm an audit partner here at the Little Rock office, Landmark, and here to present the audit of the June 30, 2021 financial statements of both Gift and iShares. I know there's been a rebranding, but due to the year end and when we issued, it's still under the old name. So for the 2022 audits, we'll make sure we'll get all the new verbiage in there, we'll get the new logos, and so we'll get that all put in there. So over the past couple of years with COVID going on, we've gotten pretty good at doing all of our internal control work at Ascensus and Vanguard remotely. We're hopeful we can go out maybe for a day or two this summer and do some on-site visits, but we'll see what next few months brings. But we had no issues during our testing. The main piece that we focused on this year is in December of 2020, multiple duties and functions transferred from the Vanguard Group to Northern Trust Corporation. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But we've over the past several years have gotten a great understanding of the controls over at Vanguard related to the investments of the gift plan. And since that transferred to Northern Trust, we got to get a whole new comfortability over their controls. And so we worked through that over the past year and had no issues with that. So with the Gift and iShares financial statements, I'm actually not going to go through those. I'm going to go into some financial trends here in a little bit over the past 5 years, but I really want to kind of hit on the audit communication letter. So if anybody has any questions, if they looked over the financial statements, I'll be happy to answer them. But if not, I'll continue. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so I will say on the auditor's report for the 2022 audit, it will look completely different. There was a new auditing standard that came out effective January 1st, 2022. And it adds probably about a page to the auditor's report if it wasn't long enough already. Just kind of going to more detail about the auditor's responsibilities, along with there's a paragraph about going concern, which neither of the plans are even close to being considered that. So just want to give you a heads up on that. But on the audit communication letter, we had no issues, like I stated. It's clean opinions on both. And really all this letter says, the first part breaks down our responsibilities. We audit the financial statements that are given to us under auditing standards. And on top of page 2, this explains that we are independent with respect to the plan, with the census, with the committee. And so what we do as part of our audit is, because it's not only just an audit, but it's an audit under government auditing standards, also known as Yellow Book. And so there's an additional level of rules that we have to follow. And in order for us to make sure that we don't make a mistake, what we've done is, because we have to adjust the trial balance from a settlement date to trade date, we eliminate exchanges and transfers. And so some accounting entries that are made, we bring in somebody outside of our audit engagement team from the audit department at our firm that performs all the entries, prepares the financial statements. And what we do is, because they are completely separate from our core group, we then go in and audit and review at least once, usually 2 or 3 times, those entries, the financial statements, to make sure that we don't miss anything, that we don't make an error or miss a disclosure. So the top of this, that was a very long-winded version of that, but that's what this is explaining. The next part talks about the significant accounting policies, which are in note 2 to the financial statements. There were no changes in accounting policies. There's no new accounting standards that are going to affect either one of the plans. Next is the significant accounting estimates. And really they're only one, which is the fair value of investments. And between BlackRock and Vanguard / Northern Trust, we're able to confirm 100% of the investment balances. We're able to go online even for each of the underlying funds for the plans. And as of June 30, 2021, we know exactly what the price per share is. So that's pretty much just the gist of that. And then here, the fund accounting transfers, what I kind of alluded to a little bit ago. As you can see, there were quite a few functions and duties that were transferred from Vanguard to Northern Trust. And every single one of these, we met with key members of Vanguard and Northern Trust and documented, what changed, how it changed, what procedures are going on. And we have 100% confidence that things are working like they should be working. In addition, because it was like midway in December of 2020, there's half the year was for the gift plan was on Vanguard's trial balance and half of it was on Northern Trust. So what we did is we made sure that the ending balances on Vanguard's agreed to the penny to those beginning balances on Northern Trust. We had no issues there. Just stated that there was no significant difficulties encountered during the audit. We had no disagreements with management. There were no misstatements, uncorrected or corrected, because there was none. We did not consult with any other accountants. And then the next few paragraphs just kind of say that the management discussion analysis included. There's some supplementary information that's also included that are not part of the financial statements, but together we issued an opinion on those. And lastly, on page 5, there's a few items that we wanted to point out that are present in the plan, but are not paid from plan assets, and therefore were not part of our audit procedures, like underlying fund expenses, the ETFs and the mutual funds. The managers of those funds, BlackRock, Vanguard, get paid, but those are not paid from plan assets or underlying fund expense. We're just stating that we don't do anything in relation to those. Same with the operating fund and the marketing commitment that is paid from a census to the committee or spent on behalf of the committee. We don't do anything related to those. Same with the administrative costs. So the iShares audit communication letter reads exactly the same, excluding the fact that they didn't have the Vanguard or Northern Trust conversion. Last thing I want to point out is, I heard Julia and John and Dave all talk about growth, which is very true. It's pretty crazy to see the amount of growth over the past 5 years for both of the plans. And so we put together a little financial trend chart here. And it's just really cool to see that, both Gift and iShares, Gift increased, the net position increased 55%, over 200 million over the past 5 years. And iShares has grown 74%, or almost $300 million. Contributions have increased consistently for Gift for the past 5 years. There was a slight decrease in contributions for iShares, but we kind of saw that across a few plans. That was really, when COVID started to affect people. So we not only saw it on withdrawals quite a bit, but also some contribution decreases. But you can see for the year ended June 30, 2021, there was 11% increase for Gift and over 20% increase for iShares. Withdrawals, as you can see, increased for Gift and decreased for iShares. Those were, we did some testing to make sure, because that was quite a big dip, but based on our procedures, we tested everything. Nothing was out of the norm. It just appeared that there was just less withdrawals. Administrative fees. This is something that we think every year that we come and present, that we focus a lot of our time on fees because, the committee wants to get paid, Vanguard wants to get paid, Ascensus wants to get paid. And we want to make sure that everybody that's getting paid is getting paid the correct amount. We do very, very detailed procedures. Had no issues this year. There was no changes or anything like that. So we didn't do any specific testing for any changes. But you can see that fees have increased about 750,000 or 41% for gift over the past 5 years, compared to an increase of 55% over the same time period for gift. This is related to a couple fee decreases a few years ago. Same for iShares. iShares has increased $1.1 million or 68% compared to net position increase of 74%. And lastly, kind of goes in line with the net position increase is the active accounts. Over the past 5 years, almost a 7,000, pretty much 7,000 account increase or 26%, but 5,700 accounts or 58%, close to 60% increase over the past 5 years of accounts. So it's just very impressive numbers to look at, and you all should be very proud. If anybody has any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Hearing no questions. John, I think you're up with some updated rules, I think.
Yeah, the committee approved updated amended program rules at its November meeting. Primarily, two primary changes. One was for changing the name. The other was to remove the Aspiring Scholars Matching Grant Program from the rules. That TJ Lawlon's kind of taken the lead on getting those rules approved, and here's his report. We cleared the governor's office review, the public BLR, and the Secretary of State notice of rulemaking, and the public comment period closed February the 14th. No public comments were received or requests made for public hearings. So the next step is to present before the Legislature Administrative Rules Committee. And it's anticipated that that meeting will be in probably April, and they're tentatively looking at April the 20th. And we'll be there to answer any questions they have.
Okay, thank you for that update, John. Do we have any new business before us?
The only thing I was just gonna check calendars for our next meeting.
You want to poll the board? Or?
Yeah, we were tentatively looking at either Tuesday, June 21st or Thursday, June 23rd.
Yes, but yeah. See real quick.
Both of those dates are good with me. So.
Okay, I think we're good. We will, we'll get back and we will work with one of those dates, but thank you all.
Okay.
Okay, hearing that, nothing else before us, I need a motion to adjourn. That could be in the form of see ya.
I move we adjourn. I was muted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank y'all so very much. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Appreciate it, Mr.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye, Julia.
Bye.